Look at this photograph. A Glasshouse, England, 1901. Iron framing, condensation on every pane, and a single woman standing inside among potted ferns. Now, look at the glass wall behind her. There is a figure reflected in it. A man, standing roughly 4 feet to her left and slightly behind. His outline is clear. His coat, his posture, the angle of his shoulder, all rendered in the reflection with the same optical fidelity as the woman herself. But in the physical space where that man should be standing, there is no one. A figure reflected, but absent. That is the anomaly. That is the only anomaly. And for over a century, no one has produced a satisfactory explanation. This is Forbidden Archive Tales, and today we conduct a forensic image analysis of the Glasshouse photograph. Pass 1. Objective image description. The photograph measures 8 by 10 inches, printed on albumen paper consistent with production methods available in 1901. It was taken at the private conservatory, attached to Aylford House in Hertfordshire, a mid-Victorian estate owned by the Mallory family. The photographer was commissioned for a series of botanical documentation images. His name was Edwin Parrish, a commercial photographer operating out of St. Albans. The woman in the photograph has been identified as Mrs. Charlotte Mallory, age 37 at the time. She is standing at roughly center frame, her left hand resting on a wrought iron plant stand. The exposure is clean. Lighting enters from the upper left through the glass ceiling. Now, the reflection. In the large glass panel directly behind Mrs. Mallory, approximately 2/3 up from the base, a second human figure is visible. The reflected figure appears to be male, of average height, wearing a dark coat that reaches mid-thigh. The figure's head is slightly turned, as though looking not at the camera, but at Mrs. Mallory. The critical detail. The physical space corresponding to this reflection, the area to Mrs. Mallory's left, between her and a row of terracotta pots, is unoccupied. There is no figure. There is no shadow. There is no compression of the gravel path that would indicate recent weight. A figure reflected, but absent. Pass 2. Documentation and testimony. Edwin Parrish noticed the anomaly during development. His processing log, now held at the Hertfordshire County Archive, contains the following entry, dated 14th of June, 1901. Quote, Plate 17, Glasshouse interior. Female subject positioned as directed. Upon development, a second figure is visible in the rear glass, reflected clearly. I was the only other person present during exposure, and I was operating the camera 6 feet in front of the subject. The reflected figure is not me. It is not Mrs. Mallory duplicated. I cannot account for it. End quote. Parrish showed the plate to Mrs. Mallory. Her response is documented in a letter she wrote to her sister, Alice Underhill, on the 20th of June. Quote, Mr. Parrish presented me with a most disturbing image. There is a man in the glass behind me. I can see his coat, the set of his shoulders. He appears to be watching me. But I was alone in the Glasshouse. Mr. Parrish was at his camera. No one else was in the conservatory. I have looked at this photograph for 3 days now, and I cannot make the figure into a trick of light. It is a man. He is there in the glass, and he was not there in the room. End quote. A sworn affidavit was later prepared, not by Parrish, but by a solicitor named George Hartwell, acting on behalf of the Mallory estate. The affidavit, dated August 1901, states that Hartwell personally inspected the original glass plate, negative under magnification, and confirmed that the reflected figure was present in the emulsion itself. Quote, There is no evidence of double exposure, composite printing, or post-development manipulation. The figure exists within the single continuous exposure of plate 17. End quote. Pass 3. Escalation through measurement. In 1903, The photograph was examined by Dr. Leonard Kreef, a lecturer in optics at University College London. Kreef attempted to resolve the anomaly through geometric analysis. He mapped the reflection angles in the glass panel. The iron framing of the glass house provided a precise structural grid. Using this grid, Kreef calculated the exact position in three-dimensional space where a physical body would need to stand in order to produce the observed reflection. His conclusion: the reflected figure corresponds to a position 47 inches to the left of Mrs. Mallory and 12 inches behind her. At that location in the photograph, the gravel path is clearly visible. It is empty. But Kreef found something else. The reflected figure casts its own reflection shadow. Inside the glass panel, the figure produces a faint darkening on the reflected image of the back wall, consistent with a solid body blocking a portion of the diffused overhead light. This means the reflection behaves as though a physical body is present. The light inside the reflection obeys the rules of a three-dimensional space containing two people. But the light in the actual room obeys the rules of a space containing only one. Kreef wrote in his report, quote, "The reflection is optically coherent. It is the room that is incomplete." End quote. Pass 4. Attempted modern explanation. In 2014, Dr. Sarah Voss, a researcher in computational photography at Imperial College London, digitized the original plate at 1200 dots per inch and subjected it to algorithmic analysis. Voss tested for every known artifact: lens flare, internal reflection, emulsion defect, accidental double exposure, even partial plate reuse. None matched. She then proposed a theoretical model. Victorian glass houses used large panes of hand-drawn sheet glass, which contained subtle thickness variations. These variations could, in theory, create localized refractive distortions. Voss suggested that a complex interaction of multiple glass panes at specific angles might have refracted Mrs. Mallory's own image, displacing and distorting it into what appears to be a second, different figure. The model was elegant. It failed. When Voss modeled the specific glass geometry of the Ilford House Conservatory using surviving architectural plans, the refraction patterns did not produce a coherent human figure. They produced smears, chromatic distortions, elongated blurs. Not a man in a dark coat, turned slightly, watching. Voss published her findings with a single concluding line, quote, "The figure in the reflection remains unexplained. I am not comfortable with that sentence, but I cannot, in honesty, write a different one." End quote. Final pass, the detail that changes everything. Go back to the photograph. Look at the reflected figure one more time. In 2019, an amateur researcher named David Cole applied modern facial point mapping software to the reflected figure. The resolution was marginal, but the software returned a partial result. The proportions of the reflected face, the distance between the eyes, the ratio of the jaw to the forehead, these were not consistent with any known photograph of Edwin Parrish. They were not consistent with Mrs. Mallory. They were consistent, within a 12% margin, with a single daguerreotype held in the Mallory family collection. The daguerreotype is of Arthur Mallory, Charlotte's husband. Arthur Mallory died on the 11th of March, 1899, 27 months before the photograph was taken. A figure reflected, but absent. Perhaps that phrase was never about the room at all. The original glass plate negative is still held at the Hertfordshire County Archive. It has never been restricted. Anyone can request to view it. Very few people ask a second time. If you were standing in that glass house, would you look at the glass? Or would you make very sure not to? Tell me in the comments. And if this is your first time here, subscribe to Forbidden Archive Tales. There are more photographs in the archive, and not all of them are as quiet as this one.